Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, that was we weren't even planning on doing an instant reaction to this Miami Syracuse game. I needed to talk about it. I mean, it is one of the more frustrating things in this world to watch Miami's offense with Cam Ward largely be the best offense that we see across the country. In this defense, it's not only below average, this defense that I think is quite talented, specifically in the front seven, just continues to look lost against quality offenses. Now, we thought it might have been back last week. I thought they put together a decent performance. Now they're back playing Syracuse on the road. Did they come up with the stop the whole second half? I don't think so. And I think that falls on Lance Guidry. Like, look, I get, especially in the secondary, that you have some players that are young, that are inexperienced. Quite frankly, that's a secondary unit that we know we had some question marks about heading into 2024. There was no question about that, but I thought that front seven was good enough for this defense to at least be average. They're just not in the big moments. Really frustrating. Want to get into just a couple of things we saw on the defensive side of the football. Now, before we do, and as always, the Miami Hurricane fans, man, let it fly in the comment section. Extremely frustrating football game to watch from a Miami standpoint. Look, Dill, the last 10, 12 weeks, we've been talking a lot of positive stuff about Miami. Like, they put together a very good season behind the best quarterback in the country. This episode ain't going to be positive. And so we're going to get into it again. To the Hurricane fans, y'all have shown a ton of support to the boys all of 2024. So we appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, without further ado, I mean, I'll give you the tee box here. Let's dig into this Miami Hurricanes defense. You look at Lance Guidry, you look at this defense that we've seen really the last month just come out and look confused, undisciplined. What are your biggest takeaways here?
I mean, you said it. The frustrating part is you look aside from the secondary, and there are some personnel issues for sure. Like their DBs don't play the ball well enough in the air.
But that's, to me, sorry to cut you off right away, but like that to me is like some sort of element of coaching.
No,
I
and,
mean,
and for sure, like they at the end of the day need to own it. But again, like I think maybe you could deal with a few mistakes here and there from the secondary. But the fact that they've gotten no progress, if you will, from that group at all, and again, there's still some schematic issues, communication issues. Like you don't go, what did Syracuse go 7 for 10 on third down? Like that's not all personnel. That's Lance Guidry not having good plans for situational football, and they're just not executing in those moments.
to me, what it looks like, because you want to like try to figure out what's going on. Like, is it bad zone coverage? Are we getting beat man? Today it was a little bit more man beaters. Like, we were just losing one-on-one matchups. What frustrates me the most is every elite defensive coordinator like has some sort of scheme and system they want to go to, and they'll mix it up and they'll sprinkle in some wrinkles. But you look at Brent Venables at Clemson, like single high man coverage. Like that was something that this defense did really well. And when things started getting off the rails, they kind of go back to something they know how to do well. I look at Miami and say, I just feels like Lance Guidry's just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks. We'll rush 3, drop 8. We'll play cover 0 and bring everybody. And just nothing seems to work. So from a schematic standpoint, it's extremely frustrating because it just seems so easy for Syracuse to work the football down the field. But then you start getting into, you put some on the players, but also just an undisciplined and confused defense. Like the alignment is consistently all over the place. You can tell there's a lot of confusion every single week from this Miami Hurricanes defense. Then you talk about the run fits. Yeah, you created some negative plays, but not really any negative plays in the second half. They just seem like do whatever they want. Like you
See,
saw
that might be the biggest issue because again, like I can certainly feel some personnel issue in the back end, but you're not even putting your front seven in good positions to really disrupt games. Like I look at a team like Michigan, like yeah, there's been some problems in the secondary for Michigan, some injuries, a lot of like turnover, if you will. But at least their defensive line is still feels like they've been put in positions at times. Like there's certainly been some moments where I don't think Michigan's done it great, but you've never really seen Miami put their defensive line in a position to really wreck a game. And they're overmatching these. Like I didn't think Syracuse could really block that.
No, they couldn't. That was the most frustrating
Game.
part about this football game is that Miami was winning up front and the ball was just getting out too quick. Like the defense the defensive line didn't have any time to get Kyle McCord to the ground because it was immediately someone springing open in the back end. And then in the run game, like you continue to see those problems with not playing disciplined gap sound. I mean, guys are getting some penetration and shooting up, but there are some pretty easy creases for these running backs to find at the second level. It's frustrating. And the kind of like to double down on my frustration, Mario Cristobal not putting the football game in Cam Ward's hands at the end, insane to me. Like you've seen your defense just not get a stop one time. What made you think that this time would be any different? I mean, if you're saying, all right, who do you trust to go out and win you this football game? Cam Ward in this Miami Hurricanes offense on 4th and 7 to score a touchdown and tie the game, or a defense that hasn't gotten off the field one time in the second half, minus, I believe, a fumble that they forced. To me, it was a no-brainer. And Mario Cristobal said, hey, we're going to kick the field goal and put some faith in our defense. To me, that made no sense. And then secondly, just like another thing, why is it always got to be Jacoby George, man? I love that kid from a football player perspective. And I'm not trying to drag him down here. He is so talented, but every time Miami seems to be doing something stupid that is costing them, in football games, it always seems like Jacoby George is in the middle of it. And it's like been years now with Jacoby George, really good football player that at times has lacked consistency, but always doing something dumb. And you kind of saw it again. You probably were scoring a touchdown to tie the football game. Jacoby George gives you the unsportsmanlike conduct, backs you up. Just everything went wrong in that fourth quarter, really.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, you look at where Miami is going to need to go. Like, I certainly expect a meaningful changes to be made on
Yeah.
that defensive staff. Like, I think Jason Taylor, you probably like what he's done for the most part, but even
Yes.
that group, again, probably at times you wish they played better, wish they played more disciplined and looked better coached, if you will. But he's probably in good shape. But I would be very surprised if there weren't some other meaningful changes. Lance, I just don't see a world where he comes back because, again, you've made no progress this year. It has gotten.
You got worse, I'd argue.
Arguably.
Like you go back to the Florida game week 1, I was like, yeah, this did. I was running my mouth all offseason. I thought this Hurricanes defense would be legitimately very good. And they looked at week 1 against Florida, and then like it's just been like a steady downhill descent, culminating in a week 12 loss where you just could not get off the football field. I would expect, and we can have this conversation briefly, we'll probably get into it later, like Miami's college football playoff chances with this loss. Now, Miami's gotten some help. There's no question mark about that. And again, I do think I was very vocal last night with Georgia playing Georgia Tech very close, and that's a good result for Miami when you're trying to stack these teams. Both losses are on the road to quality teams, right? Syracuse is 9-3. Georgia Tech almost went to 8-4 going on the road and beating Georgia. But I think the most frustrating part is you kind of took it out of your hands. Like now it's in the hands of the College Football Playoff Committee, and you can't do anything about it. I would expect Mario Cristobal to take a deep, deep look at this Miami Hurricanes defensive coaching staff because I again, question marks in the secondary. I get it. From a personnel standpoint, this is not how bad this Miami team is. They could be much better from a personnel standpoint. We'll end it there. Want to hop on, just talk about some of the kind of just air out my frustration. Really appreciate you guys rocking with it. Again, Kyle McCord in Syracuse, I probably should have mentioned this. It's a good offense, and they played a very good football game too, but just a frustrating game from a Miami Hurricane standpoint. We'll sign out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.